If you grew up in America during the 1980s or 1990s, there were certain housing projects whose names became synonymous with crime, gangs, and violence. While millions of families have called public housing home, a handful of developments became infamous for reasons far beyond poverty. They were places where gangs controlled entire buildings, drug markets operated in the open, and homicide rates reached staggering levels. Today, we're counting down 8 of the most notorious public housing projects in American history. At number 8 comes the Marcy Houses. Located in Brooklyn, New York, Marcy Houses became one of the city's most recognizable public housing developments during the crack cocaine epidemic of the 1980s and early 1990s. Although many hardworking families lived there, the surrounding neighborhood struggled with violent crime, drug trafficking, and gang activity during that era. The complex is perhaps best known as the childhood home of rapper Jay-Z, whose music often reflected the realities of growing up in the neighborhood. Today, crime has declined significantly compared to its peak, but Marcy Houses remains one of the most recognizable housing developments in America. At number 7 is the Queensbridge Housing Projects. Queensbridge Houses is the largest public housing development in North America, containing more than 3,000 apartments across dozens of buildings. During the crack epidemic, portions of Queensbridge experienced serious gang violence and open-air drug markets. Despite its size and notoriety, countless residents worked hard to improve their community. The development has also produced several influential hip-hop artists, including Nas and Mobb Deep, making Queensbridge one of the most culturally significant public housing developments in the country. At number 7, we got the Magnolia Projects. Built during the 1940s, the Magnolia Projects eventually became one of New Orleans' most dangerous neighborhoods. By the 1980s and 1990s, drug trafficking and violent crime had become deeply entrenched throughout the development. The area also became known as the childhood home of rapper Juvenile, whose music documented life inside the projects. Following Hurricane Katrina, the Magnolia Projects were demolished as part of a larger effort to redevelop New Orleans public housing. At number 5, we got the Nickerson Garden Projects. Nickerson Gardens is the largest public housing development west of the Mississippi River. For decades, it has been closely associated with the bounty hunter Watts Bloods, numerically the largest blood gang in Los Angeles. During the height of the crack epidemic, shootings and gang conflicts were common, making the complex one of Southern California's most dangerous neighborhoods. Despite its reputation, thousands of families have continued to call Nickerson Gardens home, and community organizations have worked for years to reduce violence. At number 4 is the Jordan Downs Projects. Just a short distance from Nickerson Gardens sits Jordan Downs. Historically associated with the Grape Street Crips, Jordan Downs experienced decades of gang warfare, drug trafficking, and violent crime that often spilled into surrounding neighborhoods. Law enforcement frequently described the area as one of Los Angeles' toughest housing developments. In recent years, however, much of Jordan Downs has been demolished and rebuilt as part of a massive redevelopment project aimed at transforming the community. At number 3, we have the Pruitt-Igoe Housing Projects. Located in St. Louis, Missouri, Pruitt-Igoe became famous as one of the greatest failures in American public housing history. Opened in the 1950s with high hopes, the complex quickly fell into decline as crime, vandalism, and abandoned buildings took over. In 1972, its demolition became one of the most iconic moments in American urban history. At number 2, we have Cabrini-Green. Few housing developments became as infamous as Cabrini-Green. Located just north of downtown Chicago, the complex became notorious during the 1970s through the 1990s for gang violence, drug trafficking, sniper attacks, and frequent shootings. Its reputation became so widespread that it inspired films, documentaries, television shows, and countless news reports. Although many residents were law-abiding families, simply trying to raise their children, the violence often overshadowed those stories. Most of Cabrini-Green has since been demolished and replaced with mixed-income housing. Topping the list are the Robert Taylor homes. Stretching nearly 2 miles along Chicago's South Side, the development consisted of 28 high-rise buildings housing tens of thousands of residents at its peak. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, The complex became heavily influenced by rival street gangs, including factions of the Gangster Disciples and Black Disciples. Drug trafficking operated openly throughout many buildings, and violent crime reached levels rarely seen anywhere else in the United States. Police officers often described certain hallways and stairwells as being effectively controlled by gangs. The Robert Taylor homes became a national symbol of concentrated poverty, gang violence, and the challenges facing large public housing developments. Beginning in the late 1990s, the buildings were gradually demolished. Today, little remains of what was once considered by many historians and criminologists to be America's most notorious public housing project. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what topic you'd like to see covered next. Until next time, thanks for watching.